What's up, y'all? Happy New Year. First episode of 2020 that we're recording for you guys tonight. It's On the Fence, episode 4. And this is Big Don, and sitting across from me is...
This is Garrett Scheck-Snyder, and today we're going to be previewing the NCAA College Football National Championship. We've got number 1 LSU versus number 3 Clemson, and if it lives up to the hype, this ought to be the greatest football game in a long time.
Yep, another game of the century in a season that had about 5,000 games of the century.
Yeah. So to start off, we're going to do a little bit of recapping each team's season. Both finished 14-0 and both have some very impressive wins. So to start off, we're going to talk about Clemson and how they fared throughout the season. Again, they went 14-0, and I personally was not convinced that they were as good as everybody made them out to be. However, I retract that statement because they went after Ohio State, and I got to say they impressed me.
Well, yeah, the thing is with Clemson, Trevor Lawrence been a man since day one. True freshman going toe-to-toe with Bama. And when it comes to football, I always feel that at its core, as long as you can play defense and run the ball, you're always going to win. Travis Etienne for Clemson is a great back. Obvious NFL talent. And like you said, the fact that they were able to beat Ohio State, that just speaks to the fact that, they can't get it done in a winner-takes-all type of environment. And I think with this title game, stylistically, this is either going to be a real nasty game where one team gets slaughtered and taken out the pasture, or it's going to be a shootout from jump. So, like I said, we'll see what happens, next Monday.
Yeah. So I want to dissect a couple games real quick. We'll go to LSU and kind of their win over Alabama. Alabama had he wasn't a healthy Tua, but he was playing, and he still played very well. I think LSU's defense showed some flaws there, and that was the reason Bama actually stayed in the game. LSU took an early lead, and they were dominant throughout most of the game. But it's like the defense just didn't want to put it away.
And it could be, with defense being younger in some spots, and this is the first time in a long time where LSU's had an offense that scores a high clip as quickly as they do. So with that being said, if you're not on the field as long offensively, that means that there's more time for you to be on the field defensively. You can get worn down. The more snaps you're playing, the more chances for you to give up yards and to give up scores. That's an actual thing that teams are starting to try to that they have tried to get done this year, is to try to keep Joe Burrow and that offense off the field by playing a little ball control style, running it a little bit more. Doing extended handoff with RPOs, quick screens, and short to intermediate passes. So the defense has been inconsistent, but I think just some things within the scheme, as well as being young in several key spots, I think kind of contributed to the inconsistencies we've seen defensively this season.
I agree with that. Up until at least after the Ole Miss game, I think LSU's defense has played lights out. Yeah. I know throughout the season, you're right, they've shown flaws, if they've gotten tired, but I think they gave up 1 touchdown against A&M, and that was late. They gave up 1 touchdown against Georgia, and they gave up 4 total against Oklahoma, but I think 2 or 3 of those came in the last, half after everything was already said and done.
Yeah, it was garbage time touchdowns.
Yeah, which you're going to get those. Arkansas got them.
Yeah.
But another game that I think Clemson's going to be looking at for LSU was the Auburn game. Auburn did show that they can hold LSU's offense. They held them to a low 23 points on the season. However, I do think Auburn's defensive line and linebacking core are way better than Clemson's. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll take that. Clemson has some studs both ways, but honestly, the only team in the Final Four that really had a had a front four that really scared me was Ohio State. So that was the one that I was really looking at. So yes, I'll agree with that sentiment with Auburn being better than Clemson up front.
Yeah, I just think I don't even know if they're better. They're just younger. They drafted a lot of defensive linemen. Clemson probably had the most dominant defensive line last year. And it's like that talent has moved from the defensive line to their DBs. They have a very talented secondary. And then I know Clemson fans primarily aren't going to like it, but I think LSU's probably looking at that UNC game and trying to see where they can, point out flaws, which it may have just been, uncharacteristic of Clemson, which I think it was in at least one regard. I think that was when they, kind of laxed off a little bit, and then something clicked. Like, we nearly lost that game to an unranked ACC team, That's what I believe that it was.
And and all it takes is for a team to get up for one game. When you're a power and you're playing for a national title, or if you're a champion, you're going to get everybody's best shot every week. And I think Carolina just kind of they sniffed out a little blood in the water and they went for it. And Clemson just got a little too lax, you know what I mean? So, but that didn't happen, and now we get to watch Sunshine play Joe Burrow, next week. So
that's a good matchup. And then we're going to talk about Clemson and their playoff win against Ohio State. I think that was more of a fault on Ohio State than it was for Clemson. They couldn't score in the red zone. I think 3 trips they were denied. You score one of those times, and you're probably looking at a different outcome. And then I know they had the call with the fumble that they said was down. After reviewing the replay, it looked like a fumble to me, but we're not changing the past.
I really thought Ohio State was going to blow Clemson out. Justin Fields at one point had 40 touchdowns against 1 interception. That's a video game stat line right there in itself. Just off the strength of Chase Young defensively, freak of nature coming around the edge. So that's obviously the most impressive win by any team, just for the situation at hand, the stakes of that game. That actually impressed me more so than any win LSU had. Not saying LSU didn't have obviously they played multiple top 10 teams the whole year, but when pretty much had money on the line in a sense, and the underdog got it done. So I always give a little extra credit to the underdog.
Yeah, and we've heard, probably the last half of the season that Ohio State was the most balanced all-around football team in college. It's hard to do that when none of your top teams from conferences really play other top teams, or at least not very often. That's most impressive. Clemson's on a 29-game win streak, which is, would be impressive for anybody. Even Alabama hasn't done that. At the same time, LSU has just had an unbelievable season. Multiple records. I think he's 4 touchdowns away from tying the NCAA football passing touchdown record. He's already broken nearly every SEC football record at the quarterback spot.
It's the output that Burrow's had this year, as well as Chase and the rest of the receiving core. If they haven't surpassed them already, they've actually, as far as a single season, they're right up there with the Steve Spurrier era Gators, with the Jackson 3 back in the late 90s, the Daniel Werfel era. I really think statistically, from a record standpoint, individual award standpoint, just from sheer production on the field, this is probably the best, the greatest single season offense I've ever seen come through the SEC. Arguably the greatest offense I've seen come through FBS football, period.
I would think so. I think the Hawaii offense from, was it 06? Is that?
Oh, you talking Timmy Chang or Cole Brennan?
Cole Brennan.
Cole Brennan.
That might have been a close second, but I don't think they had the run game that LSU had.
Jones ran a air raid attack, so that's why Timmy Chang threw for like 16 or 17,000 yards, and then Cole Brennan came up right behind that and in which during that whole era, Cole Brennan was the only quarterback from Hawaii to even sniff the NFL.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he went to the Redskins. So yeah, so nah, it's very few offenses that have done what LSU's been able to do this year, through the air and through the ground.
Yeah. So I know before we started airing, we talked about the game's going to be won either LSU's offense or Clemson's defense. It's all about who can make the play when those units are on the field. How do you feel that LSU, or what do you think is key for both LSU's offense and Clemson's defense?
Well, it's just going to just come down to just them getting LSU's offense off the field. And as much as I think everything is won or lost by run game and defense, I look at it like whoever wins the time of possession between Clemson offense and LSU offense, that's what's going to dictate the game. And then Clemson has to decide, do they want to try to take away the run or the pass? Are they going to come out in a 3-man front or a 4-man front? Or, are they going to come with, combo coverages with, zones in certain spots, man in certain spots? The fact that LSU goes 4 or 5 wide, come back with 3 wide, 2 backs. LSU got 2 backs that can go, like Clyde Hilaire-Edwards. So it's literally just going to come down just straight up time possession. I think that time possession and turnovers, I think that those 2 categories right there, who's ever plus in those 2 categories should win the game.
I agree. Overall, I agree. I'm not sure that Clemson's offense can score like LSU's can. At the same time, it's hard to say if LSU's actually played a defense as talented as Clemson's. Because even when they played Alabama, they had some key injuries out. Or Alabama had some key injuries, and LSU kind of picked apart that defense.
Yeah.
And Auburn's defense held them, and it wasn't until late in the game that Florida's defense stopped.
Yeah.
And those were 2 late touchdowns that allowed LSU to win that game.
But yeah, so like I said, man, I don't know, man. I think, like I said, we'll see what happens. But at this point, I think I'll go out on a limb and say if LSU comes out hungry and don't get too complacent with the success they've had, I wouldn't be surprised if LSU ends up winning by anywhere from 10 to 15 points. It's just a matter of them not thinking that the trophies that they've already won is going to win the game for them.
I agree. And, all season long, I've kind of waited for like a key moment to catch LSU off guard in any way, and it just hasn't happened. The defense has got caught sleeping a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Clemson's probably looking at that Ole Miss game, thinking that LSU's defense is vulnerable to the run. But we shut down Jalen Hurts. He didn't do very much.
Yeah.
And it's different when you have a quarterback that runs a 4-1, 4-2 versus
Yeah.
I don't know. Trevor Lawrence might run a 4-5 if he's 4-6.
Yeah. Well, no. Trevor's gonna beat you with his arm before his legs. And he's athletic in his own right. Like I said, man, I hopefully we get a good game, a classic game, and not, a god awful blowout. But I do think it's gonna be a slugfest. Like I said, whoever cracks 40 points first is probably gonna win this game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, so let's compare each unit. We'll start with quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence is kind of your prodigy. He's the big college thing, and Joe Burrow is having one of the most unbelievable seasons in college football history.
Yeah.
So Burrow has thrown for 5,208 yards, 55 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and has a 77.6% completion rating. Those are outstanding numbers. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence has thrown for 3,431 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, with a completion percentage of 67.6%. But Trevor Lawrence has been playing a lot better since the UNC game. So they're both on fire right now. But I am going to give the benefit to Joe Burrow just because he's playing a little bit better, and I think he has a better offensive line to help him out.
As far as like across the board go, with those 2 guys, I'll kind of call it a push. But because of his personality and the fact that he's a gamer, if I had to give somebody an edge, I'd give it to Burrow just because of the type of swagger that he plays with. And I think the biggest trait that a quarterback can have is when you're in the huddle, if the other 10 guys are willing to walk through fire and die for the quarterback, you know what I'm saying? I think that's the type of situation, the type of setup they got at LSU. But I don't think either team really has the advantage at quarterback, because I think that highly of both quarterbacks going into the game.
It's a fair point. So, like most games, I think this game is going to have a lot to do with what happens at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So we'll do LSU's offensive line versus Clemson's defensive, and then vice versa. I think LSU can handle Clemson's defensive line fairly easily. LSU is just gonna have to pick up a bunch of blitz and stunts, because I think that's coming. I think Clemson has one of the best defensive coordinators in the nation.
Yeah.
But if they can do that, I'll give the benefit there to LSU's offensive line. But that's not to say that it's going to be a walk in the park and that Clemson can't, take advantage of mistakes.
Yeah, when it comes to the line play, I think it's just going to go back to the run game. Whoever can get their run game going first to wear down on the opposing side's front seven, I think that's what's going to go a long way. So if Hilaire Edwards and the rest of his backfield, Mason, get off to a good start, or if Etienne and the rest of the guys in Clemson's backfield can get off to a better start, I think that's going to be another plus area. If they can get 4 to 4.5 yards to carry consistently, and wear down on the big guys up front. Because like I said, I mean, when it comes to line play, that's another push category for me too.
That's fair. And if you're going Clemson's offensive line with LSU's defense, I think that's going to depend on Chason. If he can have another game like he did last game,
Yeah.
I think LSU will be okay. But I am going to give the benefit to Clemson's offensive line.
Yeah.
And that's going to be another one where if you have the right scheme and whoever shows up to play there is going to win. I think both offensive and defensive lines for both teams are really good. And you might be looking at like a hay straw difference between either one of them. So I think that can go either way.
Yeah.
And now we'll do Clemson's receivers and LSU's DBs. LSU's got Stingley Jr., who's the best cornerback in college football, who's a freshman, and you also have Grant Delpit, who is probably the greatest defensive back, or he was voted the greatest Clemson defensive back.
In the nation, yeah, he won the Thorpe Award.
Yeah.
The past postseason. When it comes to the guys on the outside, this is the one advantage that out of all the pushes that I have across the board, this is the one plus that I give to LSU, just off the strength of LSU got 3 receivers that's next level ready. Mike Stingley, not Mike Stingley, I'm sorry. Stingley Jr. is the best true freshman DB I've seen since Patrick Peterson in regards to cornerbacks. I mean, you had a few safeties, whatnot, like Crazy Seven, Carl Joseph at West Virginia a few years ago. And with him, I mean, heck, Stingley's been working out with NFL guys since he was a kid. Dad was a minor league baseball guy that played professionally arena. Grandfather was actually the receiver that got paralyzed by Tatum against Oakland back in the '70s. So it's in his bloodline. The success he's had this season isn't surprising at all. High football IQ. He's a gamer. So I already know at the dinner table his family's already in his ear keeping him hyped up. So like I said, I really think whether it's LSU's receivers or LSU's DBs, with that combination of Stingley, Delpit, and some of the other guys, this is the 1+ area. And if LSU can take advantage of their matchups on the outside, on both sides of the ball, then it should be an easy LSU win.
Yeah. The reason I chose to go back for the Bama game earlier is that I think LSU has seen receivers like Clemson has in Alabama. I don't know if one is more dominant, and if it is so, it's so minor. And LSU is, they were able to limit Bama's offense,
Yeah.
and I think they can do the same thing again. That said, I think you're really looking at, even though they have Delpit and Stingley Jr. and all, I think we're looking at a stalemate here. I think what's going to happen is that LSU has more depth at the positions, and I think that's what's going to end up benefiting them. As far as LSU's receiving core, I think their receiving core is better than Clemson's DBs are, which is another matchup that I think is crazy because I think nearly everybody in those units are going to go play at the next level at some point.
No, this is going to be one of those games if you record it and you wait like 5 to 10 years to watch and then you go back, you're going to see like 30 last names, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
on the back of the jersey. Like, oh, okay, that guy's right here, that guy was right there, that guy went there. It's just one of those games where we're watching a lot of future millionaires play.
Yeah, I agree completely. And overall, I think this game could go either way. I think that you could look at a couple things. Clemson's been here before.
Yeah.
At the same time, and that they're also the underdog, depending on who you ask. So they could go. I mean, they could go either way. They could, if they see themselves as the underdog and they've got something to prove, they're going to come out swinging, which they do.
But on the flip side, it's the same thing with LSU. You finally beat Bama, and people are still doubting. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those deals like, do you want to be an LSU team that beat Bama, got all the way to the end, and don't close? You know what I mean? And this is more of a legacy game. I hate using that word, but it's more of a legacy game for the LSU guys more so than the Clemson guys. Coach O still has to get validated. I mean, this is a guy that was a head coach at Ole Miss at once upon a time. He's bounced around as a head coach and as a position coach and as a coordinator.
He was also considered one of the worst coaches in college football when it was at Ole Miss.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So this is a guy who has literally worked his way up from his days as a player at Northwestern up in Natchitoches to where he's at now, coaching at one of the premier powers in the nation and one of the premier conferences in the nation for the chance to literally bring home the first title in the playoff era. You know what I'm saying? So same thing with Joe. Joe was a guy who was literally a bench warmer in a room where every other guy in the quarterback room ended up going to the NFL at Ohio State. LSU have a lot of guys with chips on their shoulders. So like I said, if they can stay grounded, they can stay hungry. I think both sides have enough motivation. Both sides have enough talent. Like I said, literally the only plus that I give LSU in any category is just their skill guys on the outside. So like I said, it's going to be a fun game to watch. I feel like it's going to be a lot of emotions. There's going to be a lot of game-breaking plays. A lot of highlights going to come from this. But ultimately, if I had to just throw a prediction, I know you're kind of hesitant to do a prediction, but if I had to throw one out there, I'll go LSU plus 10. I think the actual official line out of Vegas is actually 5.5.
So last I checked, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So Clemson's been here before, but I think LSU has one of the biggest benefits, playing in New Orleans, down the road from their campus.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 60-70% LSU crowd, and anybody who's played in Death Valley knows how loud it gets.
Yeah, and then the dome noise is different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and LSU's 2-1 in the dome in national title games, so everything's kind of lined up perfectly.
Also, every team that they've beaten for a national championship made the playoffs this year, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
they beat Clemson in '58. They beat Oklahoma in '03 and Ohio State in '07.
Yeah.
Or is that backwards?
The Ohio State was 07.
07. Yeah.
Oklahoma was 03, because the 07 year with Ohio State, that's when the SEC is the premier conference deal started, because that predated the Tebow run at Florida.
That's true.
Yeah, that was a dope stat. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Just a little fun fact for us.
Yeah. Jeopardy question.
And I guess for my prediction, I'm going to go – I'm hesitant to say because it can go either way. I'm going to go LSU by a touchdown, maybe 10 points.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, but no, it's just I actually can't wait for the game to be over just so I can start looking at all season stuff for combines and all of that.
Yeah.
Because talking about the skill guys in this game, I think the 2020 class is going to be for receivers. It's going to be like the 1996 class in regards to receivers. I think there's going to be a couple of guys who can be all-time greats, and there's going to be a lot of stars and Pro Bowlers and All-Pros coming out of this class. There's literally 5 or 6 guys in each conference that can go. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it definitely seems like this is one of the most entertaining times for college football. It seems like even the college quarterbacks are learning to play like NFL quarterbacks. Your DBs and receivers are next level, and it's exciting. I'm excited to watch this game. And go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers.